My family sold my $4,000 dream studio equipment, everything I'd spent years building, to fund my brother's Instagram-worthy vacation, and they didn't even bother to tell me until it was gone. Picture a humid evening in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, the air thick with the scent of magnolias and the distant hum of jazz from a nearby bar. I walk into my room, my sanctuary, expecting to lose myself in the beats of my music. But when I open the door, my world collapses. My desk is bare, no computer, no mixing board, no monitors, nothing. It's as if my dream was erased in a single day. When I learned why, the betrayal cut deeper than I could have imagined. What I did next wasn't just about getting my gear back, it was about proving to my family, and myself, that my dreams are worth fighting for. Stick around, because this story of betrayal, resilience, and redemption will hit you in the gut and keep you hooked until the very end. I'm Brionna, 24 years old, and music is my heartbeat. Growing up in Baton Rouge, I've always been the kid lost in her headphones, dreaming of creating electronic dance music, EDM, that could set a festival stage on fire. For 4 years, I poured every ounce of myself into building my dream studio. I worked double shifts at a local cafe, the kind where the coffee machine hissed like an angry cat, and spent sleepless nights editing audio for clients online. Every paycheck, every birthday dollar, went into my $4,000 setup, a high-end computer that could handle my production software, a sleek mixing board, studio monitors that made every bass line pulse like a heartbeat, and a microphone that captured the raw emotion in my demos. That studio wasn't just equipment, it was my future, my proof that I could build something real from nothing. Let me introduce you to my family, the kind of people who'd make you question the meaning of family first. My parents, Tom and Linda, are convinced they've mastered parenting, but their version of it always revolved around my 19-year-old brother, Charles. Charles is a self-proclaimed travel vlogger, obsessed with curating a perfect Instagram feed, think sunsets on exotic beaches, designer sunglasses, and captions like chasing the dream. He's the golden child, the one who could do no wrong in my parents' eyes. If Charles wanted a new camera for his vlogs, Mom would skip paying the electric bill. If he needed plane tickets for a content trip, Dad would dip into the family savings without a second thought. Me? I was the older sibling, always told to be mature and make sacrifices. I grew up in a house where my needs were an afterthought. At 15, I saved up for a ticket to a music festival in New Orleans, but Mom said, "We can't afford it, Brionna. Charles needs new video editing software." When I earned a spot in a summer music program, Dad canceled it because Charles needed a trip to Miami for his channel. "You're strong, Brionna," they'd say, their voices dripping with expectation. "You can handle disappointment." So, I did. I buried my frustration, worked harder, and built my studio piece by piece, determined to prove I didn't need their approval. My best friend, Mia, was my anchor through it all. She's a bartender at a jazz club on the Mississippi River, with a laugh that could cut through the thickest Louisiana fog. We'd spend hours dreaming about my music, how I'd drop a track that'd have crowds dancing at Mardi Gras, or how we'd one day take a road trip to Coachella to see my name on the lineup. Mia was the one who'd text me at 2 a.m. with a new song idea or drag me to open mic nights to test my demos. She believed in my music when my family didn't. It was a sweltering Saturday in July, the kind of Louisiana heat that makes you feel like you're swimming through molasses. I'd spent the day with Mia, buzzing about a DJ contest at a local club, the Red Stick, where I planned to debut a new track. I'd been tweaking it for weeks, layering synths and bass lines until it felt like pure magic. I got home, my mind racing with melodies, ready to fire up my setup and put the finishing touches on my entry. But when I opened my bedroom door, my heart stopped cold. My desk was empty. No computer, no mixing board, no monitors, no mic, just a bare wooden surface staring back at me. For a moment, I thought I'd been robbed. My pulse pounded as I scanned the room. My clothes were still in the closet, my old acoustic guitar untouched in its stand. Nothing else was missing. I ran downstairs, my flip-flops slapping against the hardwood, to find Mom and Dad on the porch, sipping sweet tea and fanning themselves with old copies of Southern Living. "Where's my studio equipment?" I asked, my voice trembling with a mix of panic and dread. Mom looked up, her face as calm as the Mississippi on a still day. "Oh, we sold it," she said, like she was talking about an old lamp. I froze, my brain struggling to process. "You what? Sold it? Why?" Dad set down his glass, sighing like I was being dramatic. "Charles needed money for a trip to Hawaii. He's got a big video planned for his channel, Brionna. Your stuff was just sitting there." "Just sitting there?" My voice cracked, a mix of anger and disbelief. "That setup cost me $4,000. I worked years for it, every shift at the cafe, every late-night gig. I use it for my freelance work, my music, my life." Mom rolled her eyes, her voice sharp. "Don't raise your voice, Brionna. We're your parents. We made a decision for the family. Charles has a real shot at making his channel big. You can always save up again." I felt like the air had been sucked out of the room. "Save up again?" I repeated, my hands shaking. "Do you even know how long it took me to afford that? What about my clients? My deadlines? The DJ contest?" Dad waved me off, his tone dismissive. "Freelancing isn't a real job. You spend all your time messing around with those beats. Charles is building a career." My chest tightened, a hot mix of betrayal and rage burning through me. That studio wasn't just gear, it was my identity, my proof that I could create something extraordinary. They'd sold it like it was nothing, all to fund Charles's latest attempt to play influencer. I stormed back to my room, slamming the door so hard the walls rattled. The silence where my monitors used to hum was deafening, like the sound of my dreams being ripped away. I grabbed my phone and texted Mia, "They sold my studio gear for Charles's stupid Hawaii trip." Her reply came in seconds, "What? They didn't even ask you? That's beyond messed up, Brionna. You can't let this slide." Mia was right, but all I could feel was a hollow ache, like someone had carved out a piece of my soul. Years of work, gone in a day, and my family didn't even care. That night, I couldn't sleep. The silence in my room was a constant reminder of what I'd lost. I paced, my mind replaying every sacrifice I'd made for that setup, the skipped meals, the missed hangouts, the endless hours of work. I couldn't let it go. I marched to Charles's room, where he was sprawled on his bed, editing a teaser video for his Hawaii trip, his face lit by the glow of his laptop. "Do you even know what Mom and Dad did to pay for your trip?" I asked, leaning against the doorframe, my voice tight with barely contained anger. He barely glanced up, his fingers still clicking through video clips. "What, your music stuff? So what? It's just gear. You'll get over it." His nonchalance was like a match to gasoline. "It wasn't just gear, Charles," I said, stepping closer. "It was $4,000 of my money, my work, my dream. And you let them sell it for your dumb vacation." He smirked, adjusting the designer sunglasses perched on his head. "Not my problem, sis. I didn't tell them to sell it. They just knew I needed the cash for my content." His smugness pushed me to the edge. "You knew exactly what you were doing," I said, my voice low and sharp. "You let them think my studio was worthless so you could play influencer in Hawaii." He laughed, a sharp, mocking sound that made my skin crawl. "Maybe if you weren't so obsessed with your little hobby, you'd get why my channel matters. People actually watch my stuff. Your music? Good luck getting anyone to care." I wanted to scream, to shake him until he understood the weight of what he'd done. My studio wasn't a hobby, it was my livelihood, my passion, my way out. But Charles? He'd never had to work for anything. Mom and Dad handed him the world on a silver platter, while I was left fighting for scraps. I turned and walked out, my hands trembling, knowing arguing with him was like shouting into a void. The next few days were torture. My parents carried on like nothing had happened, chatting over dinner about Charles's travel plans while I sat in silence, pushing gumbo around my plate. Charles, meanwhile, was strutting around, posting Instagram stories with captions like "Ready for Paradise." Every time I saw his smug face, I felt a fresh wave of rage, like a storm brewing in my chest. I was stuck using an old laptop that groaned through basic audio edits, crashing every time I tried to meet a client deadline. It was like trying to run a marathon in flip-flops, frustrating, humiliating, and slow. Mia was my lifeline. She'd call at random, pulling me out of my spiral with stories about drunk customers at the jazz club or a new song she'd heard. One night, as I vented about my family's betrayal, she said, "This isn't just about the gear, Brionna. It's about respect. They're treating you like you don't matter. You've got to do something." Her words hit hard. This wasn't just a financial loss, it was personal. My family had shown me exactly where I stood, dead last. I couldn't keep living like this, swallowing my anger while they walked all over me. So, I got to work. I spent hours digging through old emails and PayPal records, pulling up every receipt for the equipment I'd bought, $1, $200 for the computer, $800 for the mixing board, $1,000 for the monitors, $1,000 for the mic. I found a YouTube video I'd posted a year ago, a shaky clip of me showing off my setup to a handful of subscribers. I even tracked down the buyer, a local recording studio called Bayou Beats. They were sympathetic but firm. They'd sell my gear back for the $1,500 my parents got, no less. I was torn. Confronting my family again felt like walking into a fire, and I didn't have $1,500 lying around. Part of me wanted to let it go, to avoid the drama and move on. But Mia's voice echoed in my head, "If you don't stand up now, they'll keep doing this." I couldn't let them win. Not this time. I decided to confront my family at dinner, the one time we were all in the same room. I spent the day preparing, my folder of receipts and transaction records tucked under my arm like a battle plan. As we sat around the dining table, Mom was mid-story about a neighbor's new boat, and Charles was scrolling through his phone, probably picking filters for his next post. I took a deep breath, my heart pounding, and cut in. "I want my $1,500 back," I said, slamming the folder on the table with a thud that made the glasses rattle. Dad raised an eyebrow, his fork frozen mid-air. "What money?" "The money you got from selling my studio equipment," I said, my voice steady despite the knot in my stomach. "I paid for every piece of that setup with my own money. It was mine, legally. You had no right to sell it." Mom gasped, clutching her chest like I'd accused her of treason. "How dare you say we stole from you? We did this for Charles's future." "No," I shot back, my voice rising. "You did it without asking me. That's theft, plain and simple." Dad leaned forward, his face darkening. "Watch your tone, Brionna. You live under our roof. Everything here belongs to us." I shook my head, pulling out a receipt. "This says I paid for it, $4,000 of my money. And this," I slid over the buyer's transaction record, "proves you sold it for $1,500. You owe me." Charles finally looked up, rolling his eyes. "You're blowing this out of proportion, sis. It's just some music stuff. My channel's actually going somewhere." I turned on him, my voice sharp as a blade. "Going somewhere? You let them sell my gear, Charles. You knew what it meant to me." He smirked, leaning back in his chair. "I just mentioned it was worth a lot. Not my fault they thought it was a good idea." Mom jumped in, her voice shrill. "We're a family, Brionna. Families sacrifice for each other. Charles needed this opportunity." "Funny," I said, my voice cold, "how I'm always the one sacrificing. Charles gets everything handed to him, and I'm supposed to just take it." "Not anymore. Pay me back, or I'm taking this to small claims court." The room went silent, the air heavy with tension. Dad's face was red, his jaw tight. "Fine," he spat. "We'll pay you, but don't expect any more help from us." I met his gaze, unflinching. I stopped expecting your help years ago. The next day, they handed me $1,500 in cash, their faces tight with resentment. I contacted Bayou Beats, and they agreed to sell my gear back. Picking it up felt like reclaiming a piece of my soul, but it wasn't enough. I knew I couldn't stay in a house where my dreams were treated like garbage. Even with my setup back, the betrayal lingered like a bad taste. My parents and Charles weren't going to change, they'd shown me that. I was done living under their roof, where my passion was disposable. I started planning my escape. Rent in Baton Rouge was steep, but I had my freelance gigs and a fire in my belly. I called Mia, who was all in. "Get out of there, girl," she said. "You can crash at my place if you need a buffer." I appreciated her offer, but I wanted my own space, a place where my music could breathe. I scoured rental listings, my budget stretched to the breaking point. After hours of searching, I found a tiny studio apartment near the LSU campus, a single room with a kitchenette, a bathroom, and peeling paint on the walls. It wasn't much, but it was mine. I met the landlord, Mr. Du Bois, a gruff older man with a thick Cajun accent. He gave me a quick tour, pointing out the rattling AC unit and the creaky floorboards. I saw possibility in the imperfections. I signed the lease that day, my hands shaking with a mix of excitement and fear. Moving out without tipping off my family was like orchestrating a covert operation. Over the next week, I packed my life into boxes, sneaking them to Mia's apartment bit by bit. I threw myself into freelancing, emailing past clients and posting my audio editing services on Reddit, SoundCloud, and local music forums. The response was better than I'd hoped. Within days, I had enough gigs to cover my first month's rent and then some. I also revived my YouTube channel, streaming my music production process. My viewer count was small, maybe 30 people, but their comments, "This beat is fire. Keep going, Brionna," felt like a warm embrace. My parents started to notice I was pulling away. At dinner, Mom would say, "You're awfully quiet, Brionna," her voice laced with suspicion. Dad would grumble, "You planning something big?" I'd shrug, keeping my answers vague, my heart racing with the secret I was carrying. The night before my move, Mom knocked on my door and stepped inside without waiting. "Can we talk?" she asked, sitting on my bed like everything was normal. "I don't have much to say," I muttered, pretending to organize my desk. "Just hear me out," she said, her voice soft but calculated. "We didn't sell your stuff to hurt you. Charles mentioned you weren't using it much, and we thought it'd help his channel grow. We thought you'd understand." I turned to face her, my jaw tight. "So, this was Charles's idea?" She hesitated, her eyes flickering with guilt. "Not exactly, but he suggested it, and we thought it made sense." "You're so independent, Brionna." Her words twisted in my gut. Independent? I'd had to be, because they'd never had my back. "You thought I'd be okay with you selling my dream because Charles wanted to play influencer?" I said, my voice sharp. She flinched but didn't answer. Instead, she stood and left, leaving me with the same empty feeling I'd carried for years. The morning of my move, I loaded my last box into my beat-up Honda, my studio gear carefully packed in the backseat. I left a note on the kitchen counter, "I need space to focus on myself. I'm moving out. Please respect my decision." It was simple, honest, and final. I didn't want a fight, I just wanted out. Mia met me at the apartment, helping me set up my gear in the corner of the room. As I plugged in my monitors, the familiar hum filled the space, and for the first time in weeks, I felt like I could breathe. That night, I went live on YouTube, streaming a beat-making session. My viewers were few, but their energy was electric. "This is my new space," I said, grinning at the camera. "This is where the magic happens." The chat lit up. "Love the vibe, Brionna. Can't wait to hear your next track." It felt like a new beginning, a spark of hope in the darkness. I thought moving out would end the drama, but my family had other plans. By noon the next day, Mom called, leaving a voicemail dripping with disappointment. "Brianna, you could have told us you were leaving. We're hurt you'd just walk out like this. Family sticks together." Dad texted, "You're being reckless. This is tearing your mother apart." Then Charles sent his classic, "You left? LOL. Guess you couldn't handle it. Mom's freaking out, so call her before she loses it." I deleted the voicemail and ignored the texts. I wasn't going to let their guilt trips pull me back. That evening, I streamed again, pouring my energy into a new track inspired by the pain and defiance I felt. My viewer count crept up to 50, and the chat was alive with support. "You're killing it. This beat is gonna blow up." It was a stark contrast to the silence of my family's house, where my passion was always dismissed. The next few weeks were a grind, but a good one. My freelance gigs were picking up, local artists wanted me to mix their tracks, and I landed a commission to score a short film for a Baton Rouge film festival. My YouTube channel was growing, too, with viewers tuning in to watch me break down my production process. Some nights, I'd stay up until 3 a.m., tweaking beats and reading comments from strangers who believed in me. It was a kind of validation I'd never gotten at home. But my family wouldn't let go. Mom's texts alternated between guilt and anger. "You're turning your back on us." "Charles is upset, too." "Charles, upset?" That was a laugh. He'd never cared about me unless it served him. One day, I ran into Ms. Clara, a family friend, at a coffee shop on Perkins Road. "Heard you moved out," she said, sipping her iced latte. "Your parents are struggling, Brianna. They've been asking folks for loans to keep up with Charles's vlogs." I stirred my coffee, unsurprised. "They made their choice," I said. "I'm doing fine without them." And I was. My apartment was small, the AC rattled, but it was mine. My music was mine. My life was mine. The guilt trips kept coming. Mom texted, "We're drowning here, and you've left us to deal with it alone." Dad chimed in, "If you were a good daughter, you'd help your family." I laughed bitterly. A good daughter? They'd never seen me as anything but a means to an end. Charles stayed silent, probably too busy filming himself sipping piña coladas on a Hawaiian beach, his latest video racking up likes while my parents sank deeper into debt. One evening, Mia came over with a pizza and a grin. "Your mom cornered me at the grocery store," she said, laughing. "Said you're being influenced by bad company, guess that's me." I rolled my eyes. "What did you say?" "Told her you're thriving and maybe if they respected you, you wouldn't have left." She smirked. She didn't like that. Mia's words stuck with me. I'd been dodging my family, but I hadn't told them why I left. So, I sat down and typed an email, my fingers trembling with every word. "I'm not coming back. This isn't about being selfish, it's about living where I'm valued. I've spent years feeling like my dreams don't matter, and I'm done. I hope you respect my choice, but if not, I'm moving forward." I hit send, my heart pounding but lighter, like I'd finally set down a weight I'd carried too long. Their response was predictable. Mom sent a novel-length rant about how Charles needed their support because he was sensitive, and Dad wrote, "You'll regret this." But for the first time, their words didn't hurt. They didn't have power over me anymore. I saw Charles's latest YouTube video, a glitzy Hawaii montage with the caption, "Grateful for my parents who always have my back." I rolled my eyes and kept scrolling. Let him live in his fantasy world. It wasn't my problem. A month later, I got my big break. I performed a live DJ set at the Red Stick, a dive bar near the Mississippi River, where the air smelled of bourbon and jazz. The crowd was small but electric, dancing under neon lights as my beats filled the room. I poured every ounce of my pain and defiance into that set, my hands flying over the controls, the bass vibrating in my chest. Afterward, a guy approached me, tall, with a New Orleans accent and a business card that read Crescent City Sound. He was a producer who'd worked with big names. "Your sounds fresh," he said. "Let's make something together." I nearly dropped my gear, my heart racing with possibility. That night, I went live on YouTube and shared my story for the first time. "My family sold my dream to fund my brother's vacation," I said, my voice steady. "But I fought back, and now I'm here, doing what I love. Don't let anyone tell you your passion isn't worth it." The chat exploded. "You're an inspiration. Keep going, Brionna." I felt like I'd found my tribe, a community that saw me for who I was. Weeks later, I dropped Break Free on Spotify, a track born from my fight to reclaim my dream. It's climbing the charts, and my YouTube channel's hit 1,500 subscribers, each one a reminder that I'm not alone. My family's betrayal in that humid Baton Rouge room taught me my worth, and now I'm living for me. You don't have to stay where you're not valued, your dreams are worth fighting for. What's holding you back from choosing yourself? If my story hit home, hit that like button, drop a comment with your own journey, and subscribe to join this community. Your support fuels my music and inspires more stories like this. Let's keep building something real together. See you in the next video.